Welcome to this tutorial on how to use MT Solar's AutoDesigner engineering software. We are really excited about this software and we hope that you are too, and that you find it very helpful going forward with getting designs and quotes out to your customer in real time. Throughout the entire slideshow here, I will be sharing videos. So if you need to pause this and watch those, there will be kind of some step-by-step breakdowns showing the actual process and how it works. So let's get started. So the first step is to go to www.mtsolar.us, and from the homepage, go to the My Account tab and sign in. This tool is only available to our installers, so you will need to be signed in for you to be able to access it. Once you're signed in, go to the My Account tab, find the Design and Quote tool on the left-hand side of the menu, and finally click on Take Me to the AutoDesigner. The first step is to start with a new and clean page by refreshing your browser. This ensures that all of the information is clean and there is no overlapping project information. The second step is to keep your project IDs named individually for each run. I like to use Rev A, Rev B, or Rev C, for example. This will help you keep any changes to the design straight. Please remember that MT Solar does not have access to these design calculations, so it is your responsibility to keep track of each revision to the design. Do not use special characters such as and, percentage, money, etc. You can click on this slide to view a video on naming your projects. Put in the full address of the site. The engineering software will then search a national database for the wind and snow loads in that area. If you are in a case study area in the database, that generally means you have either a local jurisdictional override or a local weather anomaly that normally specifies higher loads. In that case, you will need to get those numbers from the local AHJ. Click on this slide to view a video on how the location, snow, and wind loads affect your design. Now you will enter your module dimensions and quantity. This demonstrates the number of poles needed, pole spacing, layout, and more information about how the mount will look. You can move the mount around to see the total array dimensions and layout. There are two checkboxes at the top of the right-hand side of the blue screen. They say Show Modules and Show Rails. These are helpful to look at. Click on this slide to view a video on module dimensions, quantity, and layout. Now we're going to talk about tilt. Tilt is not only important for your power production, but it also is something to consider if you live in a high wind or snow area. The 45-degree rule is something to keep in mind if you have high wind or snow. Think about 5 degrees as a tabletop versus 90 degrees as a wind sail. If you have high wind loads and your mount is failing the software's engineering calculations, try flattening out the tilt. If that passes, I would then recommend that the customer keeps the array at that flat tilt during high wind events. If you have high snow and your mount is failing the software's engineering calculations, try making the tilt steeper. If that passes, I would then recommend that the customer keeps the array at that steeper tilt during high snow events and clean the snow off of the array often. Click on this slide to view a video on how tilt affects your design. Our next step is to enter in our front edge ground clearance. We recommend a minimum of 5 feet for our products for a variety of reasons. Vandalism, animals passing by or climbing on the array causing damage, vegetation damaging the array growing up or through. It could also cause shading, snow buildup not just from the sky but also from sliding off of the array, And often there are code requirements for fencing around wiring lower than 8 feet, which can also cause shading and add extra cost to the project. Exposure category. This is the location of the mount in relation to the space around it and what kind of wind forces you have. B is sheltered, C is open, and D is coastline. Click on this slide to view a video on exposure categories. This tool will default to the smallest pull and duty class needed for the loading forces. If you already have an 8 or 10-inch pull and want to use that, you can override the pull size here. You may also override the use duty to have a stronger, more robust mount. Hot tip: beefing up your design is a good way to reduce foundation depth in some cases. Click here for a video showing pull and frame duty overrides. A complementary foundation will be provided with the structural calculations. This design will use soil class 4 and a 4x4 square concrete foundation. If you wish to have a different soil class or shape and size considered for your foundation design, a full geotechnical report will be needed, at which point it makes more sense for you to work with a geotechnical engineer or local PE to design a foundation that better fits the project. Once you have everything entered and it all looks good, go to the upper right-hand corner and click the green check button. This will take a few minutes, but then once it is finished, it will let you know if your design has passed and you can move on to the next step. Once your mount turns into a bunch of pretty colors, that means the engineering software has almost completed its calculations. And finally, you can click on the green Get Instant Quote button on the right-hand side. If you have a pop-up blocker, this may try to redirect you. I have included a link in the upcoming troubleshooting slide showing you how to get around this. And now the exciting part. Click on this slide to see what happens next. This will generate a 3D model for you to review. You may orbit this model to view it at multiple angles. Once you have approved the 3D model is what you want to go with, click on Proceed to Quote. This will now take you to a window that shows your pricing and the details of the design, including the SKU and your unique reference number. Here are a few troubleshooting tips if you're having a hard time making the tool run. Try doing a hard refresh. If you're on a Mac, that is Command-Shift-R. If on a Windows, that is Control-Shift-R. You can also try clearing your cache. Maybe your 3D model is not loading? If so, check your pop-up blocker. Is it asking to redirect you? Click on this slide to find out how to redirect your pop-up blocker. Is your SkySieve failing? Check the wind and snow loads and adjust the tilt accordingly. For example, if you have high wind loads, try flattening out the tilt. If that passes, I would then recommend that the customer keeps the array at that flat tilt during high wind events. If your snow load is high, try making the tilt steeper. If that passes, I would then recommend that the customer keeps the array at that steeper tilt during high snow events. On larger arrays, try breaking up the array into multiple smaller ones. For example, if you want 50 module mount and it will not pass no matter what you do, break it into two 25 module mounts. Another option is to adjust your front edge ground clearance to be shorter, or you could try a different configuration. You may need to add or remove a few modules to do this. Who doesn't like more glass anyway? And voila! You may now add this to your cart for later use or proceed through the checkout process. Click on this link to see an example of a design ran in real time. Cheers!